Hello, welcome to Gooseberry. This is your host Nidhi, and I'm here with my partner in podcast, Sonia.
Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about a particular study done on classical conditioning, and Nidhi will be explaining it to us.
Yes, the Little Albert experiment was a classical conditioning experiment conducted on a little boy named Albert. Albert here is a pseudonym. Experimenters classically conditioned Albert by repeatedly pairing neutral stimuli such as rats and rabbits with feared stimuli like loud noises. Albert developed a phobia of similarly white and fluffy stimuli. So, before we dive deep into this, let's first understand what exactly is classical conditioning. I won't be explaining in depth, as the next episode will be based on all about classical conditioning itself. So, classical conditioning is a way of learning where a stimulus that triggers a biological response is paired with a new stimulus that then results in the same reaction. A very famous experiment was done on dogs by Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov on this. Now, let's get to the experiment again, um, or the case study of little Albert. The experimenters here were John B. Watson and Rosalind Rayner. We all know who John B. Watson is. He is an American psychologist who established the psychological school of behaviorism, and Rosalind Rayner was his graduate student assistant who he had an affair with and then eventually married after he got divorced. But we are not going to talk about that since this isn't a gossip podcast about dead people.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so John B. Watson wanted to see if Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning could be used on humans. He, along with his graduate student, Rosalind Weiner, carried out the infamous Little Albert experiment. Emphasizes on infamous. They begin by exposing. Okay, so what they did was um, they began by exposing Albert to stimuli such as white rat, monkeys, and rabbit. So at first, Albert didn't show fear of the object. And he actually, when he was being exposed to they first brought a monkey, then they brought a dog, then they brought a rabbit, and then they brought a white rat. Albert actually liked the white rat. He got he was like playing with the white rat and stuff. And then Watson and Raina paired one of this neutral stimuli, the white rat, with an unconditioned fear stimuli, like that was the loud noise. Since, like many childrens, Albert was scared of loud noises. This provoked an unconditioned fear response. So, what the experimenters did here was like they left Albert alone with the rat, but each time he reached for it, they would hit a hammer against the metal. Okay. So what happened was they let Albert play with the rat at first. Then um while he was playing with the rat, it's obvious that little kids or even us, if we hear a loud noises, we have a tendency to flinch or get scared. And since he's a little child, he obviously is going to be more scared than us. So when the first time, um, when Rosalind Reiner or John B. Watson, someone was standing behind this little Albert, and they banged like a hammer onto a metal pipe. When it was done for the first time and I bang like up this noise came, Albert at first was just like a little hesitant. He flinched, but he didn't show a very strong reaction to it. He again then began playing with the rat as he was doing because he liked the rat. It for him it was like a very cute fluffy stuff. It was like his friend already because little kids anyways. um then uh once more they banged the hammer on the metal pipe. This time, Albert got little scared and he distanced himself, like he flinched and he distanced himself from the rat. He was like, and then again, when he tried to reach for the rat, they again strike the hammer on the metal pipe. And now Albert started crying because this provoked a very unconditioned fear response from Albert. So when each time, whenever Albert used to try and reach to the rat, they would hit the hammer against the metal. Now, the sight alone, after several tries of just hitting the hammer on the metal pipe whenever Albert was reaching for the rat, uh, they stopped hitting the hammer. Now they just brought the rat again. This time, they didn't hit the hammer against the metal pipe. Um, but just the sight alone caused Albert to cry, which was a standard reaction to loud noises, like crying whenever he heard a loud noise. But now, just seeing the rat, Albert got scared of it. Thus, this experiment was able to turn the neutral stimuli of the white rat into a conditioned stimuli and provoke a conditioned response of fear. Now, after this initial trials of giving the rat, the bringing the rabbit, the dog, then playing with the rat, and then hitting the hammer on the metal, after all this was done, little Albert was sent back home. Now, a week passed, and little Albert was brought back in, this time and exposed to other animals. When presented with a white rat or any other furry animals, or even a fur coat, he burst into tears and attempted to crawl away. This is known as stimulus genera- generalization because Albert began to fear other white furry objects due to their similarity to white rats. They,
It's like
yes,
it's like when you might have a fear of a certain object or a certain situation, but if you can relate that object or situation to a bigger picture, like for example, if you get bullied in school, you might not have a fear of school, but because the bullying is happening only at school, you slowly develop a fear of school because you generalize the fear to like just going into school and then having to put up with it.
yes, exactly. And I think we always tend to generalize things a lot in our daily life too. And we're gonna talk about this more in the next episode too. But now what happened, like Albert started generalizing every white and furry stuff to like the loud noises and like the rat. He was only initially scared of the rat. The banging of the hammer on the metal pipe was done only when he was playing with the white rat. But now what
Yeah.
happened due to this, he started generalizing every white furry stuff as that's the word. If I go touch that, the loud noise is again going to come and I'm going to get scared.
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow our Instagram page, I think we will be putting on pictures if Instagram allows us and like not bans us because
Yeah, it's a little bit
the pictures are
we are a
kind
little
of
bit doubtful.
yeah, the pictures are kind of, I don't know,
Questionable.
not safe for work. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there is one specific picture where John B. Watson is wearing a Santa Claus mask with the white beard, and
Oh my
Albert
God. The way he is
goes,
creeping up
I
on him. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, you know,
I was concerned for him, both of them.
yeah, just the sight of it, Albert started crying. Like, imagine a kid is now afraid of Christmas, and even
He he was trying to crawl away from Watson when he was wearing a mask, but
yeah,
then like Watson held him and pulled him closer so that he could deal with the situation and see his reaction. But he was bawling, man.
bro.
That kid was bawling.
Like, imagine seeing a white fur coat and just getting scared of it. And
It
as bro, this
it's insane.
it's fucked up. Um, yeah. Now, I'm just gonna go a little just so before conditioning, that was when baby Albert was allowed to play with the pet rat. He enjoyed petting the rat, and Albert was scared of louses just like every other kid. Now, during conditioning, when Albert tried to pet or come near the rat, Watson would make a loud noise or like hit the hammer on the metal pipe. This scared Albert, and this scaring when coming close to a situation was repeated many times. Once he was conditioned, when This was when Albert was presented with the rat again without the hitting the hammer on the metal pipe. But just the sight of the rat alone made him scared, and he started crying and he just tried to move away from the rat. He had become conditioned into realizing that the white rat was related to loud noises. This was also when generalization happened, when he started generalizing and putting every single white furry object into one box. Like, I see this, I'm gonna get scared. This white furry object is trying to kill me. Okay. Now it's like, okay, yeah, he, John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner tried to condition the child. Yeah, so what? They, Albert is not scared of rat. What's wrong with that? Many things. So let's get into this. Okay, first of all,
This
this,
is our favorite part.
bro,
This is our favorite part.
when I was researching this, oh my God, the amount of times I have sent just voice notes of me just ranting about what's wrong with humanity, what's wrong with this. Because every time you know,
She just kept getting more and more disappointed each time she looked stuff up and got deeper into the research. It wasn't fun.
no, it wasn't. Uh, okay. So first of all, this experiment is considered very, very unethical because,
As it should be.
yeah, why? First and foremost, the researcher failed to decondition Albert to the stimuli he was afraid of, which should have been done after the experiment. Um, I Okay, so what is deconditioning? Uh, Albert here was conditioned to be get scared whenever he see a rat, but deconditioning is when whatever you um conditioned, like Albert was getting scared, and you have to remove the effect. It's like, when you um invent a virus or discover I don't know, just imagine there's a virus. For every virus, there is a vaccine. There is supposed to be a vaccine. Because when you're doing something, you should have a backup plan to undo it. And over here,
Yeah.
yeah, when they started conditioning Albert, they never undo the condition. They never deconditioned here. Even in
They just let him be as it is.
yeah,
Okay, now you go survive with this fear that
yeah.
you have.
Yeah, because there's one thing about called as extinction. This was done in Ivan Pavlov's dog experiment, but this we don't know if the the irrational fear of Albert just getting scared of white furry animals or stuff, if it ever extended, because we never knew, because they never deconditioned Albert here. Also, the second and the most fucked up thing here is like Albert. Okay, so Albert was just 9 month old, not a year old, not 9 year old, 9 month old. Various some sources say he was 8 month old, but most of the reliable sources say he's 9 month old. So we're gonna go with that. 9 month old. That means Albert was in infancy stage. And okay, now get see, a child is not even aware about himself till the age of 6 month. Okay, so before before 3 months or so, Albert wasn't even aware that, oh, about his
I
own
am
breath.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not only okay, since Albert is he's just 9 months. Facial recognition, this starts at the age of 1.5 years. So Albert can't even recognize his face now. Like if you put a mirror in front of him, he and put a mole on, like a bindi on it or something, I don't think Albert will be able to recognize ki, oh, that's me. He won't be able to differentiate, oh, that's my face, that's your face, because Albert is still 9 month old, and facial recognition start occurring at the age of 1.5 years.
And this makes a lot of sense when it comes to generalization because he didn't even know what his own face looked like, so he couldn't distinguish between a white rat and Santa's beard.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, exactly. Also, just for general information, infancy, it ranges between 2 weeks from birth to 2 years. Okay. And also, why? Okay, infancy is also a very important stage in a child's life. Okay. Why? Because this is where rapid motor movement starts happening. A child learns to turn his head, it learns to crawl, turn over, even some.
Basically, it's just past the neonatal stage where the child is now like now the child has to really adjust to the outside environment,
Yeah,
like
the
psychological and physical changes.
yeah, the child starts getting independent because this is when the child starts developing a attitude of itself, a behavior, a attitude, physical movements, and physical development starts happening very quickly this age. This is also known as the foundation age. So like, you imagine you are a 9-month-old baby stuck in some dark and dingy room. Yes, the room was actually dark and dingy. Like, I think it was some random room in a hospital. Bro, small random room. I would have been shit scared even though I don't know what's happening. The child doesn't even know what's happening around him. He's probably like, what the hell, where I want my
He
mama.
probably couldn't even see the faces of the two people who were exploiting him, bro, because of how dark the room looked.
Yeah. Also, the worst part of this is like Albert actually ended up passing away at the age of 6 due to hydrocephalus. Okay, now what is hydrocephalus? Hydrocephalus, it is a condition that can lead to brain damage. Basically, it's a neurological disorder caused by abnormal buildup of cerebrospinal fluid in the cavities deep within the brain. So basically, what happens is like, uh, your brain has excess pressure on it. The other simpler name for it is like water on the brain or water in the brain. It's not water that is there, but like the cerebrospinal fluid, it increased abnormally in the, it should, in like, it's not in normal level than it should be. Okay. This causes lots of issue in kids, like the head is usual, like it's enlarged than normal heads. This
It's visible in the cranium, like the
Yeah,
cranium widens because of it.
yeah, and it puts harmful pressure on the brain's tissue. Okay, and there are also, obviously, if you there's some issues, or if you're having a disorder in your brain, if it's a neurological disorder, it will have some other symptoms that comes to that. And like, there's a list of symptoms like frequent seizures. How do you pronounce it?
Seizures.
Yes, okay, cool. um Vomiting, and the symptoms actually vary from a child to a adult, depends to a older person, and from people to people. So I
Because the developmental conditions are different, so it
yeah,
might the effects are also different because of that.
yes. So also, despite knowing the child's health condition,
Oh
what
wow, so amazing. He is
yeah,
absolutely evil.
yes, Watson continued the experiment. Okay, like, don't even, in today's world, this experiment would not even be approved by the Institutional Review Board. Like, Institutional Review Board protects the right of human research subjects and studies. Okay, but Dr. Watson would have gotten shedded. Okay, this man should not be allowed within 5 kilometers near a child. Okay, please. Also, this, and let me tell you why this is like exactly, um when Watson was conducting this experiment, there are many flaws with it. Now, when the third point was about the health issues, now let's I'm not gonna say right now, but we will get into that later on. So like, there are some inherent flaws with the little Albert experiment. Um like, first was the age. um like we said, like, the Albert was too young. Like, if you want to see you if the experiment is working on animals, and if you want to see how it will work on humans, why take a baby? I feel like a baby is like, because babies are very easy to train. Okay, you can,
Yeah.
yeah, if you really want to see, why not
Children
take,
are a clean slate, so
yeah, because then a baby can't even give his consent. Okay, because,
you're starting at rock bottom anyway when you're taking a child.
yeah, like, bro, where is the consent, bro? Like, if you want,
Not there.
if you
Error
want,
not found.
if you wanted to be at least, to consider the experiment like, oh, okay, so humans can be classically conditioned. You can condition humans to, you can condition fear into humans, but the human is a child, bro. Like, it's not even a child; it's like a baby. Like,
That's barely a human. That wasn't a human until 9 months ago. What are you doing?
yeah, and we know the age he didn't deconditioned. That was a problem. These are like the initial two problems we know. Now let's get into the more. Okay, the experiment was supposed as classically conditioning theories on humans, but they only use one subject. There is a thing called sample size. So whenever when you are when you have a hypothesis and you want to try it out, you always need to have a sample size of whatever you're trying, like people. Because I can't say ki, I have discovered a new vaccine and I think it will help. Let's take COVID while example. Imagine if I have invented a vaccine and I test it out on my sister. Okay, no, I tested on Sonia, and Sonia survived. And I'm like, oh, this vaccine is the best vaccine out there. You should try it because one person survived. One person who is like a teen who has different health issues. Just because Sonia survived, that doesn't mean if you try that vaccine on me, I will survive. I would probably die the next day. That is the
You
reason why.
never know.
Yeah, you need a sample size. But here there was no sample size. There was only one subject. And this sole subject was an infant who wasn't even 1 year of age and had like many brain damage. Like, therefore, like, this experiment only proved that one white male baby with hydrocephalus could be classically conditioned. The result should not be generalized across people of different ages, genders, like anything, social economic status, sexual orientation, race, and like, you get it, without more test subjects. Furthermore, the researchers didn't truly explain how they collected the data, which makes the experiment difficult to replicate. There's still photographs of little Albert's reaction to stimuli, but it seems that the researcher mostly relied on their subjective personal observation, because we all know you can easily manipulate photos, bro. Like, we as like the generation was always
We
on
are
social
in the
media.
tech-savvy generation now.
Yeah. Yeah. Because,
Anyone with a laptop in their mom's bedroom can edit photos
and like,
and
no,
really make them like an issue.
I mean, this is not about editing photos here, because I don't think editing was like there at that.
Even a thing back then, yeah.
Yeah. But it's about okay, you can make a child, when you see wedding photographers, a child is crying, you can show a doll or a candy and the child might look happy in the photos. But people who were present in the wedding will know that the child was bawling the entire time and was so fucking annoying.
Menace.
Yes. But in the photos,
Menace.
the child would seem happy. Like, so we don't exactly know if, oh, did Albert actually enjoyed playing with the rat, or was it because there was something behind the scene that he saw and he was happy? Or did he really have a fear reaction? Or behind the scene, Watson did something like pinching him or something like that. We don't know that.
Yeah, we can't be sure. And the other person other than him who can be sure is like,
His assistant, like, who, I don't like to demean women on what they do, but like,
that wasn't cool.
yeah, we can't, it's none of our business. Oh my God.
I have this sudden urge to say she likes them older, but I don't
Shut.
think.
Sonia, shut, shut. Okay. Because it's mostly you you can't actually see the interpretation of little Albert's neutral and fearful reaction can be heavily biased. So it's difficult to assess whether the data is reliable. On top of not having objective data collection methods, the experiment has very low external validity because it isn't generalizable to others. Even with the data uh you know the collected data, because they didn't explain how they gather everything, and how because of which it's difficult to replicate. But it's also very important that whenever, like for all of us, whenever we read something or like, oh, new research, this causes this, wearing this will help you gain this, if you drink this you will lose weight, or if you psychology says this, in not only the random Insta post, but even when you're reading some articles which are published by like well-known people, it's very important to see where is the data collection. Is the data collection proper? Because there are many cases when they checked the data, it was proved to be manipulated. So you can't always trust anyone with some blind eye. And here we don't even know how the data was collected. So that's that.
It was too long ago to
Yeah.
even sort of scrutinize and see, because current age psychology students are like
Hmm.
decades away from when this experiment happened.
Yeah. Also, the Little Albert experiment is used to explain classical conditioning because it is why. Okay, now you're like, okay, we know it's unethical, we know it was terrible, but then why are we studying this? Because even when you're we are not in degree college yet, but I know that in the first year degree college, you have a little paragraph mentioned about this Little Albert thingy. So why is it still there? Because it's like, even though it's like a powerful vivid example, but it's but that's not all it helps to explain. So overall this experiment shows that ethical issues and scientific flaws are interconnected. Ethical flaws can directly create general experimental design flaws and vice versa. So it's essential to take such experiments as learning lessons in more than one way. They are helpful to learn more about psychology, but it's also necessary to identify the flaws, differentiate right from wrong, and understand the repercussions of such experiment. So, also, now it's like after when all of this was done, it makes you question, but who was little Albert? Because for us, we don't even people actually don't know who little Albert was. Like after the experiment was conducted, it was like Albert vanished into thin air since we don't know the real name, and like it was never also the mother, like Albert's mother, she wasn't aware like this experiment was going. In some sources it was said like John B. Watson kidnapped Albert from the hospital that her mother was working, but that's too bizarre. But um, one source said that Watson,
Also, I feel like that statement is just like more for the drama. It does not
yeah,
have any like actual basis to confirm to confirm
yeah,
anything actually.
yeah. But John B. Watson used to pay Albert's mother $1, like $1, but the mother wasn't aware for what the child was being taken, like what experiment it is. Because like I don't think any sane mother would let her baby, 9-month-old baby who's probably sick, in like for hours and hours in a small dingy room where he's getting, when they're conditioned that child to get scared. Like that's so fucked up.
Of literally white fur, bro. It's
And
not even like specific.
judging by the way like Watson was paying the mother like $1, we already see like the financial condition might not have been good with them. And
Yeah, because she was giving away her child for like few hours a day for just $1. I
yeah,
mean, it might seem like a small amount to us now, but back then it might have been a huge deal for them considering the level of poverty they were in.
yeah. Plus like we already know ki Albert might have what was the name of the disease? S-
Hydrocephalus.
yes, hydrocephalus. And he died when he was 6 year old. We don't know if this experiment wasn't done on him, he might have, you know, lived.
Survived a bit longer.
Yeah, because just he already had a greater amount of pressure on his brain than the normal population because of the condition he had. And now, every single time he sees a furry thing, white furry thing, every single time he sees a rat, every single time he sees a dog, a rabbit, a fur coat, a person with a beard, he's going to be very scared. And that. his amygdala, bro. Let's not just talk about that. Every single time he's scared, the pressure on his brain would be increasing significantly, and that might be one of the causes which might have
Increase the speed of the deterioration.
yes. Okay, so we like saw all the reason why this experiment was considered very unethical because of the because they didn't decondition Albert, the age, the condition or the disorder he had, the neurological disorder he had, hydrocephalus, and then there wasn't proper use of data collection. We don't know they were. We don't know what it was. There were only photographs available. There was only one subject, that was Albert itself, and like there wasn't a sample size, because due to that it's not generalizable to others. And also we all saw this, but now it comes to the question, like, who was little Albert? Because I just mentioned it few seconds ago, I don't know, I just mentioned it. Before that, we Albert, he kind of disappeared into air. No one knows who little Albert is, and Albert wasn't even his real name. This was a pseudonym given by John B. Watson to the little child. So there was many investigation done on this to find out who little Albert is. If you want to know more about it, you can Google it, but most of the reasons why the investigation is done, it's not accessible to the layman crowd. Like, you have to pay in dollars for something and all. But okay,
Yeah,
uh,
we were sad
yeah.
that we couldn't get a whole picture.
Yeah, because like all this data collection about and the investigation, this was posted in APA, that is American Psychological Association, in their journal and in their magazine and journal, and just everything. But we only found the gist of it, like what's in the magazine. We couldn't get the magazine because you have to pay like dollars, and you need a specific permission to view it, and they're not going to let some teens from India to view it for free. So yeah, that's that. So evidence was collected that indicated that Albert B, the lost in part subject of John B. Watson and Rosalind Rayner famous conditioning study, was Douglas Merritt. Okay. Even if you just search the name up, Douglas, if you search it on Google, you will immediately get all the articles related to little Albert. So this guy is like the most. It's like there were three people who were suspected to be little Albert. So from the three, this one is the more narrowed down subject, or like the more prominent, with higher probability that this was little Albert. So, following the finding that Merritt died early with hydrocephalus, question arose as to whether Douglas' condition was congenital rather than acquired in 1922, as cited on
So
it.
this basically means that it was found that the condition was there since birth. It
Yes,
wasn't developed later on.
yes.
So
On his, this was found on his death certificate. This was and this. Okay, so this would imply that little Albert was not the healthy and normal infant that was described by Watson and the numerous secondary sources. So that puts Watson in such a bad light. Oh my God. I mean, what was he thinking? Could he like not gather some subjects? Like, wasn't he like a well-known person, like a well-known name?
wouldn't people like
Like,
come to him if he just put out like a poster or something that he needs people for his experiment? Probably would, unless they were aware of how he was. Then
I mean,
lore.
I mean, was he like, was he so excited to just like, oh, I want to see? Was he, like, did he got so inspired by Evan Paula that he wanted? Oh. he did this
Let me
experiment
ruin
on
a
dogs.
child.
Yeah, he did this experiment on dogs. I will go one more step forward and do it on a child. No, no, like, bro, what were you thinking? Um,
Nothing makes sense here.
and we're not going to talk about his child rearing practices or the book he published. Oh my God.
Or how what happened to all of his children and
Hmm.
how they just eventually either committed suicide or died.
Yeah, we are not
So
going to talk about that. So So, when detailed analysis of Watson film footage of Albert suggested substantial behavior and neurological deficit. Okay, so the video is still available on the internet. If you want to search it up, you can see it. And if you see the whole video, you will see that Albert, the child, is there like very substantial behavior in the way the child is acting. It kind of shows like, oh, this child is kind of different from the rest of the normal kids population. Like something is wrong with this child. Like not wrong in like the bad kind of wrong, but like he's different than other than it's very prominent if you see the film footage. Um and the anomalies that we observed in the film of Albert are insufficiently explained by his hospital upbringing. But okay, so people try to explain it the way like Albert is like acting differently is maybe because he grew up in the hospital. His his early upbringing was done in the hospital and all, but are consistent with findings from newly discovered medical records of Albert here, like the guy, Douglas Merritt. So first people were like, no, no, that's because he grew up in a hospital environment and all. Maybe that's why he's acting like that. But then when people started finding medical records of this child, they started saying, oh, it's because of his this condition. Also, hydrocephalus. Okay, okay, let's get into this. This document revealed that the infant suffered from um hydrocephalus. There are like two more names of disorders which are too difficult for me to pronounce, so I'm not going to talk about that. And also retinal and optic nerve atrophy. So what retinal and optic nerve atrophy is like the optic nerve cell here is like damaged. So again with him being just a 9-month-old kid who still doesn't know facial recognition, plus he had an optic nerve deficit, so we don't know if he actually like the generalization part, maybe he saw the fight fur coat as actually the rat because he couldn't see it properly because his vision was not that proper.
he had impaired vision. Basically,
Yeah.
everything about this was wrong, and he had like multiple uh, issues, obstructive issues since birth, which probably Watson was aware of, but did that stop him? It didn't.
I mean,
Absolutely not.
it did, and all the medical history record indicates that Albert's session with Watson occurred during the period when his clinical courses were relatively stable. So, like, uh, he was undergoing treatment, but the courses were relatively stable this period of time. And when further inquiries, we found ample sources of information that, okay, then some people might say, oh, maybe Watson wasn't aware of this. No, after further inquiries, we have they have found ample sources of information it was available to Watson that would have made him aware about Albert's medical conditioning at the time he tested the baby. So yeah, there is that. So forget about experimental ethics. Watson's legacy, bro. Let's not talk the Albert study. This is like if you wanna see more about this, you can just go into Psych-Info database record 2020 APA. Like, if you want, I can put in the link or like I you can DM us on our Instagram account that is Gooseberry Pod, and I can DM you the link if you are like too lazy to search it up. Hmm. So that's that. There is also a specific article which summarized the author's effort to find out Albert's identity and like the fate, like what actually happened to him and all. And it's actually very sad to see like a child had to undergo and suffer. And this child was not even a normal child. He was already someone who was suffering. And then he had to undergo such a traumatic event, and that actually worsened his condition.
Yeah, it added to mental agony and health issues for him.
And the sad part is like, what did this experiment bring about? Except like bringing like
It just threw light on unethical experiments and how they should be banned,
yeah,
honestly, because nothing more than that was really
because
found.
you can't actually consider this experiment like, oh, as truth. Like, yeah, we can condition the fear into humans and all, because like everything
There's no
that
sizable
yeah,
population it applies to.
no, there's no sizable evidence to support this experiment was actually proper, or like it can be replicated again to see. Because when we talk about experiment or the empirical method, it's something that even under different conditions, the result will be the same. But psychology is more of it's not a pure science, so the result will differ from condition to condition and place to place. But even from that, there are some
There is still some generalization that you'll
yeah,
find. Some.
and yeah, but and here from this we can't even do that. Hmm.
Also, because since it can't be replicated, they might also be referring to how, like, when he made the report of his experiment, for example, he didn't really mention what he did specifically, but we could only find videos and photos of what happened. So we don't really know what happened behind the scenes when the camera was off. So
Exactly.
that just adds to the horror.
Yeah. And like all this for like what? A child's life just got ruined. And like they never even tried to decondition it. We don't know if it was if extinction happened. Like, huh.
And 6 years is very young. Like,
Yeah.
it's super young. You aren't even fully through to like being like you're not even in your childhood yet at 6 years old. You're
You
still really like really slowly, but you're still developing pretty much in all of the areas of your life.
yeah. And like, okay, let's just hypothetically, let's just assume ki the merit guy was not the real Albert. We don't know who the real Albert guy is. Like all the efforts from the authors, like let's just keep it aside for a while and all the evidence collected and all. But let's just see if he was not that. Maybe Albert didn't had hydrocephalus or some other condition. But even, just keeping all of this aside, it's still pretty horrid to see like a child, a, like a
It's still
baby.
really bad.
Yeah, because see, even you okay, because we find rats, dogs, furry things everywhere,
On
and
a daily basis,
yeah,
yeah.
and kids are specifically those who love all this. Okay, soft toys, furry stuff, they love all this. And this was like taken away from him. Like,
So even if he is by any chance still alive somewhere in this world, even though it's been like over 100 years, uh, but even if he is there still somewhere, then or till whatever age he was alive also, assuming that he lived a decent life after that up till old age, how can you be sure that this didn't cause some real like trauma to him? You
yeah,
can't be sure because
you
you
can't
couldn't
be
trace
sure.
people back.
Yeah, because we don't know if Albert actually led a comfortable life after this. And like,
We can't be sure about anything actually.
yeah. So, this was little Albert experiment. Um, we had lots of thoughts and opinions about this when the first time I brought this up with Sonia, and we had like a 2 hours long discussion about this. But we can't do this now because like Spotify, and we had to cut down the episode for the for
And most of the discussions were actually shit talking. So we didn't
uh,
want to upload that.
we also talked about John B. Watson's other books and stuff about how he used to say that parents should not display affection to their kids. Yeah. Um.
I would have, bro,
Mhm.
straight to jail. Straight to jail.
Yeah. Uh. So that was that. Um. Sonia, do you have any more thoughts or just questions or anything that you want to say, or you would like me to explain it again in a better way or something? Anything?
No, I feel like this was good. The only thing I would like to add here is that, like Nidhi already mentioned earlier when we were going through all of the content we needed to cover, you should not just blindly trust any experiment, because there are multiple experiments that until you have not gone to the deep depths of where the experiment rooted from, you still won't be able to give like a sure short answer saying that this experiment was done with a sizable amount of population, this experiment was ethical, this experiment was based off of genuine doubt that the experimenter had. So until and unless you haven't done your own research, don't blindly trust and believe like random links and YouTube videos. Just one YouTube video or just one article does not justify everything that an experiment had included. So rely on multiple sources, and whatever tallies the most in all of the sources is probably what was right, whether you want to live in denial or not.
Yeah.
So just like they did for the little Albert experiment, where only one child was used and the child had like specific conditions, and that's where the child showed specific responses. Don't rely on one source and expect it to be fully true. Take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, so I forgot what I was going to say, but that's it for like okay. What else? Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. So I was going to say ki like, and also like whenever you are, searching about something, and maybe after some more research, you might find out, oh, something is wrong with this, or like, oh, this was not actually true, or even in this experiment, even this was like a hot mess. We should always see like what is what was the more important lesson, or like what was something more important that we knew from this. Because it's always good to see the good, but like not here. I'm not forgiving them, not at all. But what we learned from here is about this.
Yeah, she's not siding with them.
Yeah, this experiment actually helped a lot for creating the ethical rules for conducting experiment, because psychology does not have a hard fast rules, like at least not in India. We only have ethics. But after this experiment, the board actually decided to release some proper guidelines and rules to be followed while you're conducting a experiment. So that's that.
Find it sad that a child had to go through all of that for people to actually realize that, oh, we need ethics and we need like experimental boundaries and stuff.
Exactly. And it was not even a child, it was an infant, a little baby. Like, my God, that makes me,
Literally, like the amount of time you were in the womb, you were out of the womb. You were just that old.
yeah, and it makes me so sad, like from the perspective of a parent too, because like the mother was kept in the blind here. She didn't knew what was happening. The reason why Albert like disappeared in
Yeah.
thin air was like once she found out what was happening, she like ran away with the kid somewhere. We don't know. But like it's so like but it actually talks about how, improper authority can cause like so much problems. Just like people with power can, when you abuse and because Albert here was a helpless person. Albert
Yeah.
didn't have any privileges except being white, but like still, it's just so uh I don't know what to say. This every time um I come across this experiment, I'm always sad because there are many more other experiments which are just like horrific, but there's something about this that just makes you sad because like all it's like what all this for what a child has to had to suffer so much like huh
Not
so
wasn't the best way to go about such stuff.
yeah. So that was that for today's episode on Little Albert. The next episode we will be talking about classical conditioning. We'll be getting into depth of what classical conditioning is. We'll be talking about Ivan Pavlov's dog experiment and how experiment should be, uh, and just basically classical conditioning. And Sonia will be talking about operant conditioning too. So stay tuned for that. Yep.
So that was it for today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Gooseberry.
If you're listening to this episode on Spotify, go check out our YouTube channel called as Gooseberry Podcast.
If you're watching this episode on YouTube, go check out our podcast on Spotify called Gooseberry.
Follow us on Spotify and YouTube so you're always on time for every new episode we release. Follow our Instagram for sneak peeks of the episode, behind the scene footage, fun reels, engaging story, and a whole lot more. Because I'm very funny, guys. So, like, please.
Yeah, she manages our Instagram. For any business emails and inquiries, email us at gooseberrypodcast, biz, at gmail.com with the subject line, quote unquote, business mail. All emails with subject lines other than this will be deleted immediately. To send us any feedback, email us on the same ID with the subject line, season, insert number, episode, insert number, feedback mail. All emails with subject lines other than this will be deleted immediately.
This was Gooseberry, your guide to understanding the fascinating interplay of psychology, trends, and the essence of being alive.
This is Sonia.
And Nidhi.
Signing off.